Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Leadership Lean In, our first of 2020. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here in the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, and we've got a very special episode coming your way. Before we get into it, I want to say thank you to everyone that has subscribed on iTunes, on Spotify. Thank you for those that are listening on YouTube. Hey, the more you comment, the more you share, it helps us get the message out. So thank you for being a part of that. I saw so many people tag us in the year-end review of Spotify that this was your podcast that you listen to the most. Thank you so much. 2020, I promise we're going to have great guests, great content, some good times. Might laugh a little bit, but we're hoping to lean in and learn from the subject of leadership the most. I was texting with someone earlier today, and they were asking me, what are you most excited about for 2020? And I told them I'm most excited this year to learn and grow. I think that's what fuels me, gets me excited. There's so much to learn, and there's so much room for growth, and that is our obsession. We're not chasing perfection that cannot be obtained, but we can grow, and we can get a little bit better. Also want to say, send in your questions. This next episode, we're going to phone a friend right here live from the studio. We're going to phone in a friend, and I'm going to be asking that friend questions that you bring in. So leave on YouTube and iTunes, wherever you can, even if it's on Twitter, leave us some questions, and we'll try and respond on the next episode. Okay. First episode, 2020, we have with us in the house some extremely special guests, and they are special because they are a huge part of my world with Julie and I. They are our good friends, and we get to work together. So we have with us on this month's episode, Ryan Cross, who is on staff and an absolute legend. We have Tommy Luong, also on staff, running Zoe Kids, and no stranger to the podcast. She is our Sissanine. She is our Tanya Rad. Erica the Boss Bosco is in the house. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you. Come on.
We are talking today about the subject. We're titling this month's episode, Mentors, Ministry, and the Young Will Always Win.
Yeah.
Let me explain. Like, you know that preacher that says his title? You know, my title today, and then like doesn't make sense. So you're like, let me explain. But I want to come around the idea today of first mentors. And I think it's so important as we talk about leadership. I always think whenever you go to the next level of your leadership, you can always attach it, or you can always go back to it was somebody, it was a person that helped get you to the place that you couldn't get there on your own.
Yeah.
Right.
So this word mentor is fascinating to me in our little cul-de-sac, our little community of faith, because I find that sometimes people get addicted to their mentor. Sure. They get attached to their mentor. They can't do anything without their mentor. Yeah. So I kind of want to deconstruct, what does it look like to have, what's a healthy relationship with a mentor, mentors, and what is unhealthy? So I think we should start with the newbies.
Let's do it.
Do it.
All the way. Also, Tommy, there's 3 Mexicans. She's full.
Yeah. No, I'm half.
You're
we
half?
make a full. Remember, half
yes,
and half.
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
She's half. I'm half. This is also
Half.
Wow.
So there's 1.5.
Yeah.
1.5.
Tommy, you are what again? What are you?
I'm Black, Hawaiian, and Vietnamese.
Wow. Yeah, well, you win. Okay?
Yeah.
So
Hands down.
That's fun.
Yeah. We just got this half card we're throwing down.
What a mix.
Dang.
But it's great to be, the Hispanic pride is strong.
Representing. You want to do this in Spanish?
3/4 of the table. But when I talk about mentors, what comes to mind for you?
I think I went through a season of life, and I think others similar maybe have gone through a season where that word would scare you, where mentors is something that would be too confrontational. And there was a stigma attached to it that it would be all truth, or it would just be regulating your life, and it would just be a way to not sin, which we know is not really a productive way to approach a life. A godly life is just trying to avoid sin. So I think I definitely in the past have avoided them because of what I thought they were, or what I may have, what I experienced them to be. But I think it wasn't until after I had come out of high school, after I'd gone into college, that I really experienced a mentor in a really healthy, very productive environment where it was that truth, it was that challenging voice, but it was also a lot more than that. It was relational, it was grace and truth, kind of a good mix, and I think that's what I found to be the most productive. Right. But I think there's definitely can be a stigma around just the word mentor or accountability partner. Like those things can seem scary. But I definitely have found that when there's that mix of relationship with growth, with grace, with truth, and really the relationship I found sets the table for those harder conversations. Right. So mentors that have really been impactful in my life really set that groundwork with relationship. Yeah. And then they had more equity. Right, just more relational equity to come in with those confrontational moments, those challenging conversations, which to me is just a reflection of what Jesus does. Yeah. Right, grace is his approach, but truth is his identity, his character. He's the way, the truth, the life, and so I think that approach I've found to be really fruitful in my life. And as people ask for me to be a mentor or whatever, that's kind of the approach that I've taken as well, that I found has worked.
Isn't it interesting? I think sometimes the reason why it gets so unhealthy and why people can get weird in this relationship is it's not always the student's fault. A lot of times it's the mentor's fault.
Sure.
Right.
The mentor wants control.
Right.
The mentor wants the title.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, which is weird.
Let me mentor you.
Yeah.
Like I've never had a relationship with anybody that was like, hey, just a heads up, you and I, we're in a mentor relationship. I'm mentoring. Like that term is, I'm sure in some spheres, totally acceptable. I just don't like that terminology. I definitely think you have to have those relationships and those people. Yeah. But I don't think you have to have that title. And a lot of times, it's not always the person approaching, can you be my mentor? It's someone saying, I want to mentor you. I want to be your mentor. And I think you have to be careful with that in making that judgment call of a relationship of going like, if you're wanting to do that, is this for me or is it for you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the struggles in leadership is that we all struggle with this need to be needed.
Right.
And that's the hard thing is like, I need people to need me. And if you don't need me, then where's my identity?
Sure.
And so I think that's a tricky thing when it comes to these relationships is understanding, are you really out for my best interest or is this self-serving to you?
Yeah.
Right.
Tommy, have you ever ran into this or have you ever been mentored?
Yeah, I think throughout my life, I've always had people who kind of leaned into my life. They may have not necessarily said, I'm your mentor, right? But they have played that role. I think through every season, I've had more than just one. Yeah. And I still, there's still times where, every once in a while, they'll still check up on me every couple of months. And I think it's healthy to have more than just one voice. Sure. I do find it weird when people can't grow out of just getting the answer from multiple people, but just that one person. What makes it so special about that one person that you have to find their wisdom on, and because I think that God brings more than just one person into your life. And so
and we know this because the Bible says there's wisdom in the multitude of counselors, right? And usually it's that bizarre mentor that wants to be the counselor, right, and doesn't appreciate all the multitude you've brought along. Anyways, continue.
So, I think the multiple mentors that have been in my life, if you will, they've carried through my hard seasons. And I think even within moving to LA, I've found out that maybe they have not said that they're my mentors, but I've leaned into them for wisdom. So I think every season, as long as you're open to, understanding and leaning into the voices that I think God has brought into your life, right? I think that they're always going to be people there to help you as long as you're ready to learn. So
that's it. What do they say? A mentor always walks through the door when a student is ready to learn. Wow. In other words, you can't get that mentor in your life until you position yourself in humility and you want to learn.
That's right.
I think the interesting thing about mentors is that they don't always have to be in proximity. You don't always have to know them. Like I was mentored for years by one of my best friend's father, his name's Wayne Cordero, and I would listen to him every Tuesday. I'd take lunch. And I would go in El Monte. I would go to a car dealership because they had great Wi-Fi. This is like in 2000, 2001. And I would go watch his sermon from the weekend before. And that's how I learned how to preach. I would watch him. I'd study him.
Wow.
He was mentoring me from his books, his leadership podcasts, his teachings, his life. I was being mentored. Now, I never talked to him. I didn't have his phone number, but he was mentoring me. I think you can always be mentored from a distance.
Yes.
And if you do that right, you can have someone that's far away you're gleaning from, and even someone locally that is, in proximity with your life that knows where you're at. So I'm learning from this guy way out there, but this guy that's close to me is going like, hey man, like let's focus on this area of your life. Like, hey, I notice, you struggle with punctuality, or your finances aren't in order, or I noticed that, you haven't been yourself lately. And I think you need people in your life close enough to you that not just the distant mentor, but that's the power of community. Erica, I've known you a long time.
Yeah.
And I've never heard you use the word mentor.
No.
When we talk about this subject, what comes to your mind?
Oh, I was thinking about actually getting saved at 19 years old, and I didn't realize I was being mentored. I had, this girl that was older than me, just kind of take me under her wing. It kind of felt like a big sister sort of relationship. Hey, let me teach you, how to read your Bible. Let me teach you how to live your life in a godly way. And I think even outside of the church context, when we talk about mentors, it's essentially looking at someone's life where you want to be. Like if you want to move forward, you got to learn and study and grow.
Right.
And so now looking back, I can see that I was being quote unquote mentored, but I don't think I realized.
Right.
In the moment, I was just like, there's this person that I aspire to lean into my life the way that you are.
That's it.
And I think when mentoring gets funky, it's like kind of like parents that live through their kids, like extreme sports parents or extreme like stage parents. I think where it gets tricky is anytime you sense the mentor or the leader stifling the growth of the student of whoever they're honestly like honored to lead. Like, I think that's where it gets a little bit weird, and then there's competition where I think like any great leader or mentor, you feel like their ceiling is your floor, your floor is their ceiling, that kind of thought. So I think that's my thought from it.
No, I think that's so wise and so good. I think that's kind of like, all of us would be mentoring people right now, not calling it that.
Yeah.
Right. Sure.
Right now you have people that maybe because, so much of it is semantics. It's terminology. Yeah. And I think we love to use the terminology of I'm investing in this so-and-so.
Yeah.
I feel really led to help raise this person up.
Yeah.
I feel really called that there's something unique and great on this person's life. And I'm committed to being a good friend to them. I'm committed to being a good pastor to them. I'm committed to seeing growth in their life. And I always feel like it is really imperative that when I commit myself to somebody, I'm aware that I need to make room for other voices.
Right.
Good.
One of the first things I always say is, what do your parents say?
Right.
What do your pastors say? And what do your friends say?
Yeah.
Because, when it comes to dating, or it comes to making a geography change, or I was just sitting down with somebody this last week, and I'm talking about, a real life decision. And I'm like, hey, what does this level think?
Yes. Right.
What does your family think?
Exactly.
Like, you got to bring in all the counselors. And because otherwise it gets very possessive.
Yes.
And I think that's where the dysfunction comes.
Well, I have a very specific memory actually of talking to you and Julia. I was very young, and I remember, you probably don't remember this, but I remember you telling me like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to give you context and help you like make a good decision. And that was a life-changing moment for me where I think that's like where people, pastors and mentors and leaders and people that are leaning in really well, it's like, you don't tell people what to do.
Right.
That's not that, you just give them the context to make great decisions on their own.
That's right.
And that's like life-changing.
That's
for
it.
people.
That's everything.
Yeah.
I think that we should always be trying to find voices in our life that are teaching us and helping us. This last year, I found a guy named John Gordon. I had never heard of him before. Obviously, many have. He's a New York Times bestseller. He's a amazing author and speaker, and I've just gotten really into his content. He's all about the power of positive leadership. And so even like right now, I'm in my car, I've been listening to his audiobooks, and I don't know him. I've never met him, but he's a huge voice in my life.
Yeah.
And he's mentoring me, he's teaching me, he's training me. And so I do think that there's people that I'm meeting with personally. I have a personal relationship with Chris Hodges. I have a personal relationship with Craig Rochelle.
Yeah.
But there's also people I don't even know.
Yeah.
That I'm, it's like coming into 2020, everybody's like, you gotta be careful what you put in your body, careful what you put in front of your eyes, careful what you put in front of your ears. It's like, we're not just careful, we're deliberate.
Yes.
Sure. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
We're thinking intentionally about the people that we want to be massive. And usually the people I want to mentor me are people, it's like, you're somewhere that I'm not.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What's on you is not on me. And I want to learn, how did you learn how to think like that?
Yeah.
Live like that, lead like that. I'm trying to, you see life in a way that in my limited experience and view, man, I'm not even close to seeing it. And so I need to get, your thoughts and your principles in my life. And that, again, when you're a student, the mentor walks through the door. Yeah. When it comes to the area of ministry, and all of us are in ministry and trying to help mentor and raise up people in ministry. I always think one of our privileges is, it says in the Bible, one of my favorite scriptures, he who desires the position of an overseer desires a good thing. So we do have people that are looking to you, people looking at your life and going like, I want to be like Tommy.
Yeah.
I want to be like Erica.
Yeah.
How do you handle that when people go like, man, I see you're in ministry, I see you're serving, you're building. Do you ever think about this? Do you ever think like, man, people are watching my life. They're watching the way that I live. Sure. How does that affect you?
The weirdest thing is you're like, you see what you think you see of me. And so you talked about this yesterday, you were saying how every leader has a dark side. Everyone has something they're working on.
Right.
But I think it takes a lot of, I've found and I've grown into knowing like I have to be very secure in who I am to lead people to their greatest potential. And I think it's weird. People are like, I want to be like you, but I try to identify like, what are you saying? Like, you're saying that you want to grow and take a shot on what you think God's called you to. You want to step forward into something new. And so I have a really, really big passion for college age, young adults. That's when I got saved. That's when I really found my purpose in life. And so I really find that when I'm meeting with young girls that are just trying to figure out where they're going, I get really excited. Honestly, I do. I'm like, read your Bible, know where you're going. I think it's really fun for me. Yeah. And I don't put a lot of emphasis on taking myself too seriously. I'm like, well, this is what I'm doing. Yeah. I think I've had the huge privilege of being really raised up over the last 10 years under people that I respect. And so I'm just trying to constantly reiterate what I've just learned, either the hard way or what I've learned by taking it in and practicing it myself. And I think the goal is I just don't want people behind me to make mistakes that I made for no reason.
Yeah.
Right.
So. Yeah. Tommy, how about you? What comes to mind when these people are looking to you and they're going like, Tommy Two Guns, Blue Nation. I say Blue Nation because the kids ministry all wears blue shirts. But people are looking to you and they're going, man, I want to be like Tommy. I want to be, doing I Love My City and mission trips and all this stuff. How do you handle that?
Well, I always think it's a privilege for one, that people would want to follow you and but I also think it's kind of similar to what Erica said. It's just they want you to be able to engage with their life and be able to take them to the next steps. I think everyone that, because I see my flaws. And so I'm like, I don't know if you guys really want to follow me because, I personally go through stuff as well. But I think, when it's such an honor and it's a privilege for people to want to follow you and you to be able to engage their life and to lead them well. It keeps me sharp. It makes me understand that, hey, you're not only leading your life, but people are following you. You got to really set the standard and set the tone. And so it helps me create good habits in my life. And because I can't lead someone to somewhere I haven't been, and so I think that out of what you've been through, you'll be able to walk people through kind of your experiences. And so I always kind of take it as a high honor for people to, just walk through the journey with me and kind of whatever I can share through my life and help them, I'm always down.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, someone like yourself, you have been through a lot and you live your life I think that's the thing as a leader, you got to live kind of open book.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And people don't, I think there's a tension there because I think there needs to be some mystery to you.
Yeah.
That you're not too overexposed. We live in such an overexposed culture where you feel like you know everything.
Yeah.
I think you do need to have some mystique about you, and yet the tension in the same life, you gotta live very vulnerable,
Right.
Yeah.
very open book.
That's right.
I just think you find that, like Julia was making fun of me on Sunday. We were laughing about this last night. Julia was making fun of me that I said on Sunday, 2019 was the first time I felt like quitting.
Yeah.
And she said, you don't know how many people came up to me and was like, oh, I can't believe he said that. I can't believe, and people was to me, wow, man, you felt like that. And I just feel like you gotta sometimes open up your life.
Yeah. Right.
And not just be robotic.
Exactly.
And still people go like, wow, you're a real human. I didn't know that you felt that.
Right.
So there's you're honest and yet it's that tension.
Yeah.
There's a tension there.
Yeah.
But you do that so well, Tommy, where I'm like, whoa, where is Tommy Two Guns? Is he?
Ooh. Mystique.
Oh, there he is. He's at Orange Theory.
Yeah.
54 splat points yesterday. No big deal for those of you that do Orange Theory. We got 54.
Okay, Tommy.
How do you handle that? People looking up to you. You were a youth pastor for a number of years in Austin, Texas.
Yeah. I think it's, if you're in a position when someone's coming up to you and articulating that kind of a thing, I want to be like you.
Yeah.
Something that I want to always remind myself is that if someone is identifying something in me that they want to be like, it's only a direct result of Jesus in my life, right? So anything that someone would want to emulate in their own life from me, I know didn't come from me. It's because my life has been radically changed by Jesus. And so just a sobering kind of position to always stay in, that if someone is coming up to me and wanting to be mentored or wanting that kind of relationship, I understand, well, what they really want, what they really need is Jesus to change their life. Yeah. And so it kind of changes the dynamic to how can I make you a replicate of me, and more to how can I get you to expose who you are to the person of Jesus, and allow him to do the work that he wants to do. Because I think anyone that gets approached and someone wants that kind of relationship with them, I think that's what that person is truly identifying. There's
that's right.
Man, there's something about you, right? Even in a non-church setting, some people coming up to you identifying, hey, there's something about you that I'm attracted to, that, man, when you talk, when you engage, I'm in. That denominator is someone whose life has been changed. And so, and it's someone who's living who they are. And so the goal isn't for you to be me. The goal is for you to be you, completely sanctified and changed by Jesus. And so I think that's just something that I just want to always and pursue, is that platform of you don't want to be like me. You want to be you plus Jesus.
I think that the immature, insecure is to go like, yeah, you do. You want you want it in my wake, in my space. I get it.
I get it.
Don't they all?
I get it.
You can put reverb on your own voice. Don't they all?
Echoes.
Yeah, exactly. I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think you have to keep in mind, why do people want to be like you? What is it about you that people are drawn to, and being able to cite the source, of why you're attracted. But I also think a part of it, something that I try and be aware of, is like, it is just a big honor and privilege that people want to do what you do.
Yeah.
And I think we're always trying to differentiate. I remember a number of years ago, I had to go to Virginia Beach to go do CBN. And Carl's parents live out there. And so I had dinner with them the night before. And I was talking about Carl and how proud are you and da-da-da. And I was kind of making fun of it. At the time in ministry, everybody had the Carl Lentz haircut.
Yeah,
Carl
I
Lentz,
actually remember this.
Carl Lentz leather jacket.
Yep.
Carl Lentz haircut was like a thing, right?
And the scoop tee.
And the scoop tee with the
Oh
little
my
rose.
gosh,
The rose.
I'm embarrassed for everybody.
Yeah,
scoop.
It happened. It was like
kinda
you go to a youth conference, it's just like, yep, Carl got you. and so I was kind of bringing this up to his parents and talking to him about it. And I think his mom or his dad, I can't remember which one, said, a lot of times people look at Carl's fruit, but they don't know the root.
Yeah,
And I think when people desire the position, they're looking at fruit.
Sure.
I see the effectiveness, I see the life, I see the impact. But I think it takes time for the mentor to really teach the student, this is the root of it.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the genesis and the motivation. This is the heart intent. This is the desire. This is the work ethic.
That's it. Yeah.
I think all the mentors I've ever had have peeled the layers to show me what this is really about.
It's good.
Because I was convinced it was about something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow, I get to do this. I get to, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
It's not about any of those things.
Yeah.
It comes down to Jesus and people.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is ministry. Ministry is loving the Lord with all your heart and loving your neighbor as yourself and boiling it down to that.
Yeah.
Right.
And you get that down, everything's easy.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think mentor is about unwinding, just taking the layers back and teaching somebody, no. Let's keep it here. This is what your life is about. So I do think we need mentors.
Yeah.
I do think we need to motivate people in a ministry. I do hope that we live lives. When the Bible says teach or live a life worthy of your calling, that we're called and we live at that level. If you're living at the level you're called, I think people are drawn and will want to be like you. And then the third one we're talking about today is the young will always win. I love this line because I think it's so true that young people will always win.
Yeah.
It's always about youth. It's always about kids. It's always about the next generation. It's all, a verse. This is probably the most spiritual leadership leading we've ever had.
Oh,
Ryan brings it out of me. My God, what a mighty man of God.
I said, I dropped shoot.
Quick sword contest or whatever it was. One generation shall declare your works. Well, I think that sometimes you see this in any industry, especially ours, where a church doesn't do that and invest in the next generation, and they just kind of grow old together. And they have their heyday, whatever that was, their run, so to speak, and it's only because they missed the next generation. I think we're privileged enough right now because of age. And age allows you to be a little bit relevant. That's not a struggle for us. We people kind of make fun of Zoe, like, man, I came to Zoe, I'm the oldest person there. Like that whole bit, which I get. We have a lot of young people, which I don't see as a bad thing.
No.
I recognize that there's gonna be one day that I'm like, I wish we were younger again. I think that'll happen, but the young will always win. When I say that, what comes to mind? The young will always win. We're going back to Ryan.
Let's go, Ryan.
Well, now I'm thinking, don't be spiritual, don't be spiritual, don't be spiritual, don't be spiritual.
No pressure.
Oh, the young will always win. I love that line, and I think I love the approach of keeping it about the next generation. I think it's keeping it about the next generation will always be about what is the next thing that God wants to do.
Yeah.
How do we stay relevant to what God wants to do next? And also just that mindset of championing. We always want to be championing the next, so that this doesn't just end with us, right? That Zoe Church isn't done whenever the leadership is done.
Right.
But how can we pass this thing along? How do we pass that baton? How do we make this better than when it was started, right? And I think if you have that mindset, then you're obsessed with the next generation. You're obsessed with the next group of leaders, that the next kids coming through youth and all of that, because you know that the day is going to come where you have to pass that baton.
Yeah.
And who are you going to pass it to, right? And so I think it's someone that has the mindset of longevity that kind of keeps it. The youth, the young, they will always win because we have to make it about them. So this thing lasts.
Yeah. I think there's a reason why we watch most commercials. It's all filled with young people. Yeah. Right. It's youth, and youth has such a relevancy about it, and they are the next generation. They are the future. I had the privilege of working with youth for 15 years. And to be honest, even probably longer than that, because, when I got really involved with church, I was 16 years old, and I just kept staying, in my youth group. Then I just kept staying with youth. And then I feel sometimes like, I'm like, man, it's hard for me to relate to adults. Because I was hanging around 16-year-olds for a good 2 decades. Yeah. But it's the biggest deal that they will, it's an investment. The thing about investment, you can't see a return right away. Right. But you're raising, training, mentoring, helping, serving, exposing, and really, trying to inspire. Yeah. Right. Yeah. To get them to a place to when they get older. The thing about youth, I used to go to lunchrooms all the time, in football games, and I never went into any any lunchroom or any football game, and no student ever said, "Thank you so much for coming." No. They would thank you by going, "What are you doing here?" Yeah. Yes. What are you doing? What are you doing at my game? And that was code for, I'm so happy. Yeah. And I'm so grateful that you took time to come watch my game. Yeah. So it's an investment you have to wait for. But I think when we use the phrase, the young will always win, what we're saying there is that we're convinced that it's all about next. Yeah. And it's all about investing into what's, about to be the reality of our society. Yeah. And the way we educate, the way that we train, the way that we teach them manners, the way that we teach them how to engage in culture, the way we teach them faith, will set up the future of our nation and our world. Blue Nation, Tommy Two Guns, you work with kids. My kids are being raised up under your leadership. You are the mentor of their life. No pressure. What if Mavi called you his mentor? Dad, he's my mentor. I'm like, all right, Mav, pound it. When it comes to the young will always win, what does it make you think of?
I do think about the next generation. I obviously was a youth once. I still feel like I'm young. Same. Like I'm about to be 30 tomorrow. And I feel like I'm 13.
Wow. Okay. It's your birthday. We're going to party like it's your birthday. And communion like it's your birthday.
Hey, I'm kind of feeling this. But I think that it's so crucial that we just have an awareness of who's coming next. Yeah. I think even every Sunday before we go into Zoe Kids, I talk to our team about the honor and the privilege to be able to teach these guys biblical principles at such a young age, because they are coming to, they will be 15, 16, 18, and in their 20s, and they're going to have to make all these decisions. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to ever feel like I didn't do my part in sharing the weight of the responsibilities to really teach them these godly ways. Yeah. And so I know that when I was a 15, 16-year-old, I made some pretty poor choices, but I still had people in my life that would still, was able to engage with me and took time with me and teach me God's word. I didn't grow up in church, so I am very thankful for the youth leaders who were there for me. And I feel bad for some of them because some of them took a really long time with me. It just didn't seem like I was going nowhere for a really long time.
But it paid off.
Yeah, exactly.
But it paid off. And, 10, 15 years later, now I'm serving in full-time ministry, and so I always think about, when it comes to the next generation, we just have to be aware that their time is coming, and what are we doing on our end to prepare them to take on really the mantle and, passing the baton, if you will, to really run church one day. Yeah.
So. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, you're living proof. I think all of us probably living proof that, someone waited it out and invested into us, and the young will always win. Yeah. I love that. Erica, what comes to mind for you?
I think I have a daughter, so I think about, what am I going to leave her in her life, and what am I, even like teaching her manners, and what does it look like when she goes to school one day? And I think I don't want to just give her something to inherit. I wanted to give her something that she's been building with us the whole time.
Yep.
And I'm like, the phrase like, listen to the kids, man. Like they're talking. They're telling us what they want. They're telling us what they need.
That's it.
And if we get so self-centered on me right now, and when I get older and we forsake the young, they're going to still talk. And they're going to keep telling us what they need.
Yep.
And I think exactly what Tommy was saying, we just have a privilege of making sure we take care of them and give them things to grow into.
That's it.
And I think they will always dictate culture.
Always.
They will always dictate which direction we're going.
Yeah.
No matter how old and quote unquote wise we get, the youth are always going to dictate the culture. Yeah. And if we want a voice in the youth, we have to know who they are.
That's right.
And I think I'm super passionate about that. And I think like people want to be young. They want to look young. They want to feel young.
Yeah.
They want to be around young.
They want to be around young because there's life in youth.
That's right.
And they will always win because they always set the tone.
Yeah.
And maybe the older generations are paying for that tone, but they're setting it. And so I think our investment dictates where they go.
That's it.
Like you're saying, the investment, you see it pay off in 10 years, but if you're not thinking about it, where's it going to go?
Right. I just always think, I feel bad for kids that aren't invested into and don't have mentors and don't have, someone to look to and go, I want that position. I want to be like so-and-so. They directionless kids. My mom taught high school Spanish for years. And I just love that she was always collecting kids. Just collecting them. It's like, Mom, I'm over here. But she's collecting the strays, collecting the kids that don't have family, don't have somebody at home, don't have, and they're, my heart goes out to single parents. My heart goes out to the mom that's having to work, 2 jobs to put food on the table. And she's got a 14-year-old at home and an 18-year-old. And I think that's for us, the opportunity to step in and be a mentor. I know you do a lot of work at Dorsey High School and helping kids here in Los Angeles, have an inspiration, have a relationship. I always thought, when I was working with youth, that was my primary focus. I don't have to preach the best message. I really don't. But I do need relational equity. And I do need to let people know I'm here. I care. I'm about helping you and serving you any way that I can. If you want that, cool, we're here. If you don't want it, we're not gonna, try and barge down your door and act like spiritual weirdos. But we are definitely here to serve.
Exactly.
And definitely here to help. And I think if we can keep that mindset, the older we get, that we're aware, it's all about next. It's all about making a way, making a platform. It's all about letting them have proximity, letting them have access. I think, I'm fascinated with college sports and I'm fascinated with the ability of you watch a Nick Saban or a Dabo Swinney, these older guys that are able to go into the homes of 17 and 18-year-olds and really convince them that they should come. Why they're not just selling a program, they're selling a relationship and a belief. It was amazing. I just saw this the other day. The number one recruit in America, this is fascinating. The number one kid in the nation chose Clemson, Coach Dabo Swinney, who's playing for the national championship. By the time this airs, he'll play the day before. And so Dabo Swinney recently was in an interview, and a reporter asked him about they landed the number one kid in America and what's it like to get him, and hey, what's he like? Well, Dabo Swinney started explaining this kid that he just landed, just signed. He started explaining him, blah, 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 blah. He starts going to and the father got on Twitter and said, I've known my son his whole life, and Coach Dabo Swinney just described him better than I can.
Wow.
And I thought, see, that is someone that's convinced. You got next. You're going to change our program. You're 17, 18, but the abilities you have, the gifts and talents you have are a game changer for our university. Now, if we can use that in our fields, in our churches, we can use that in our cul-de-sacs and look at a 17, 18-year-old, you got something on you that will change the program and get to know them. Like, this coach spent time knowing him because he knew the power and the potential that was in the young will always win.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like we got to have that same ability, that same passion.
Yeah.
You know, I love that. I was just in Atlanta going to Passion. And I love that Louis hasn't stopped investing in Next.
Same. Yeah.
He's still taking Christmas break and drawing 65,000 students from all over the world to come together and rally and point them to Jesus. But you better believe there's people sitting there going, I feel invested in you. I feel loved. I feel cherished. You put this on for me. This is a rally cry. This is a moment that will shape me forever. And those deposits that are made in 20, 21, 22-year-olds, it will absolutely alter the course of their life.
Yeah.
So I get excited because I feel like around this table, we have the potential to change a lot of youth and a lot of young people's lives.
Yeah.
Right.
And I say we go for it.
Let's go.
Come on.
Do it.
Thank you so much for joining this month's Leadership Lean In. Hey, before we end, check out this month's top 5. All right, this month's top 5, we're talking about the subject of the dark side of leadership. What I love about every leader is that every leader has strengths and every leader has weaknesses. We all have a bright side and we all have a dark side. It was amazing. Last year, before the Enneagram craze, we were really into the 16 personality test. And someone else on staff and I, we scored the same exact personality. And this is the one that allows you to see like what celebrity you're like. And it was going through all the strengths. And so we were on a group text with a whole bunch of people. And she says, man, I can't believe we got the same personality. I'm reading all the weaknesses and I'm just so embarrassed. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've only read the strengths. And when I read all the strengths, I was like, I'm awesome. This is exactly who I am. This is fantastic. I didn't even look at the weaknesses. The reality is we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. Let me just tell you, your weaknesses are no laughing matter. And we got to take some of those weaknesses. We can't just staff them. We got to take some of those weaknesses and turn them into strengths. Take some of those things that are the dark side of who you are, dark side of what you've been, and turn them into the things that are actually propelling you forward into the greatness of your future. Here's 5 things, top 5 this month. Number 1, here's the dark side, is pride. Oh, I love talking about this thing. It's amazing. They say about pride. Pride is the only disease that makes everyone else sick besides the person that has it. Why is that? Because usually it's a prideful spirit that goes before fall or before destruction, and pride blinds you. Pride will not allow you to say sorry. Pride will not allow you to say, I love you. Pride just blinds you, puffs you up, and gets you to become so self-deceived that you can't really navigate your life. Humility is the opposite. The law of opposite here is humility. It takes a humble spirit. It takes humility to apologize, to make things right, to see things from other people's perspective. It takes a humble spirit. Now, pride, it gets in the way. Pride starts to creep in and we're going, wait. All of a sudden, I'm not operating in the kindness and the compassion and the character of what I want to be. How did pride get in the way? You got to bring that from the dark into the light and start walking in humility. Number 2, emotional instability. This is no laughing matter. Emotional instability. If you are an emotional roller coaster and you struggle with getting a hold of your emotions, one of my favorite movies to watch with my kids is Inside Out. And it does such a great job of showing, on the inside of the character is, joy's fighting for attention, and so is anger, and then there's sadness, and then there's, peace and tranquility. Inside of us, there is this war of emotions. I always ask my kids, do you control your emotions or do your emotions control you? You got to make a decision. Are you the boss of your feelings or do your feelings run your life? Emotional instability usually comes back to sleep, diet, not having the ability to live a disciplined style. So you're not rested, you don't have enough water, and your emotions are all over the place. It is always hard to follow an emotional leader. It's easy to follow someone that's consistent. Show up every day, you got a positive attitude. Every day you got some joy and some strength and some wherewithal and some sobriety. If you don't have that right now, you got to get this year. 2020 is your year to take you from emotional instability to emotional sobriety. You're sleeping right, eating right, exercising, getting all your serotonin levels and your adrenal glands, everything in order so that you are healthy and you're the healthiest version of yourself. Here's number 3. It's a cruel spirit. You're just a meanie head. We got to take that mean spirit from the dark and bring it into the light. Now, I believe this. Some people were just born mean. Like you just talk to somebody like, dang, they mean. They really are mean. You are not. Some people are just naturally nice and they're sweet and they're kind and everybody's great. And maybe that's not you. If you have a cruel streak and you're a mean person, knock it off, you meanie head. Let's become kind. Now, kindness, I believe, you don't focus on kindness. Kindness increases with a relationship with God. In fact, it says it this way in Galatians 5, that the fruit or the result of a relationship with God and His Spirit is kindness. So the way I get more kind is actually looking more to God in my life, not looking more to kindness in my life. We got to get that cruel spirit. People, listen, if you're mean, people are uneasy around you because they know on the drop of a dime, you can get mean, you can get cruel, you can turn on them. You can't operate in a mean spirit and do well. We got to bring that from the dark and into the light. Here's the 4th thing is disrespect. Now, we're talking about bringing from the dark to the light. Disrespect is tricky because I find in leadership, people that are disrespectful, it's never blatant. It's never like a bear at the front door. Rah, I'm disrespecting you. It's always subtle. It's always a little comment. It's always a lack of posting about the church or the organization. It's always not showing up. It's always disengaged. It's always just this attitude of, you can tell because the law of opposite here is respect. It's honor. You get around honoring people and respectful people, you always know where you stand with them. Disrespectful people, you're always just a little uneasy. You never know if you're good. You're just like, are we okay here? You're not. You're not okay. It's in the dark, and there's an attitude here. There's an offense here. There's something going on, and we got to bring that into the light because you won't just flip on a respect switch. You've got to deal with issues of the heart to become a person of respect. Disrespect is no laughing matter. And your organization, your church, your business, your home has no room for disrespect. We cannot move forward with disrespectful employees and disrespectful actions. Look for those. It's always the little comment, little roll of the eyes, wait, where are they? Little things that will tell you about a person's true character and the way they're approaching things. Here's the 5th and the last one, number 5, foolish behavior. Oh, I love this. We're going to bring it out of the dark and we're going to get this thing in the light. We're going to go from being fools to being wise. The opposite here is wisdom. And foolish behavior is foolish with finance, foolish with our words, foolish in conflict, foolish with finance. I already said finance. Foolish behavior. We got to arrest. We've got to get a hold of foolish tendencies. Because if you're marked as a fool, you can't lead anybody. People will allow you to be around, but they will not ask for your advice. They will not look to you for problem solving. They will not even see you as a respectable leader because they go, the way they handle things, the way they handle their kids, the way they handle their marriage, their personal life, their money is foolish. I believe 2020, we got to walk in wisdom. you're marked by wisdom. Wisdom is the application of knowledge. So by the way, just because you know a lot does not mean you apply a lot. We got to connect the dots and go, I'm bringing what I know and I'm putting my feet to the fire. I'm moving it from head to heart to feet, from information down to inspiration, down to application. Let this year be a year of application where you are not marked by foolish behavior, but you're marked by the spirit of wisdom. Top 5. Love you.